I'd like to call the meeting to order. Also, those that can stand, please do so for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dismiss my chair. A lot of noise here. Okay. All right. Roll call, please.
All board members are present except for Mr. Howe, who is away on vacation, sweet country.
All right. Approval of the agenda. Got a couple of items to remove from the agenda. Item 8A and item 9A, which related to a request for special approval. And 9G, which was had something to do with the building official.
No, that was F.
9F.
It's a what?
F.
F.
9F.
Did you guys change this agenda on me? Apparently.
Did you print that? How early did you print that?
I don't know. This morning.
Okay. This is 9G.
Oh well. You got different numbers.
Which one are we? It's 9F. Mr. Davies, for building official coverage, is being removed.
Okay, so that means I've got to change the order. Lettering of all these things. Oh, there's an F missing in it. That's why.
Well, if there's an F missing, you're good.
All right. Well, I got a bum one. You got a
Just
good
figured to
one?
mess with you.
Well, let's not worry about that. Okay. Motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Motion to approve.
Support.
As amended.
Okay, moved and supported. Vote please.
Mrs. Chenoweth?
Yes.
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 Motion carries.
All right, consent agenda.
I would move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
Okay, moved and supported. Vote please.
Mrs. Cooper?
Yes.
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 Motion carries.
Okay, next item, announcements and information. Actually, the last concert in the Sounds Like Summer Music Series was last night, and any that attended it, it was, I think, a very successful season, extremely well attended this year, and some super bands, so look forward to next year. I think we'll have some other good ones.
And the ones we had to move into the fire station, that worked out great.
Yeah, it's
So
awesome.
thank you for that.
Yeah, thanks, Chief.
Very nice.
Actually, the concern there was that it was going to sound like a tin can, and the amazing thing was is it was phenomenal sound. So,
It worked good.
all right, Highlands Farmers Market every Saturday until October 26th from 9 a.m. to noon at the corner of Livingston and Milford Road. Township office will be closed Monday, September 2nd, in observance of Labor Day. There'll be a Highland Town Hall meeting to discuss November ballot proposals at the Highland Activity Center Tuesday, September 10th at 7 p.m. There'll be a fundraiser for the Chill at the Mill it's the Chill at the Mill baseball fundraiser at Jimmy John's Field Sunday, August 25th, 2019. Who do we get a hold of to?
Tickets are $25 and you can go to hwlba.com to purchase them.
Okay. Did everybody hear that?
Something about getting a ride there, is it?
There'll be some buses available if we get enough people that want to ride the bus.
Our buses or which
Yeah.
buses?
The smart bus, yeah. All right, there's a Chill and Mill, the raffle. for a handmade king-size quilt. The tickets are $5 each, or 5 for $20. You can get those at the library. You can get them from the DDA.
Our office.
You can get them at the clerk's office. It's a beautiful quilt. The quilt's on display at the library, so if you want to look at it, you can go in and see it. It's somewhat folded up, but it's a beautiful piece. Number 7, public comment. Anybody have public comment?
It's Raymond 6039 Fish Lake Road. Back on one of your blogs, you wrote to me, Mr. Hamble, that I'm trying to start a smear campaign, but it's the other way around. Back on this letter, you and Tammy and Brian called me unstable, crazy, I was going to shoot up the place. Now that is smearing my name. So my question to you is, how would you like to be called Little Tricky Dicky Slicky Ricky, you Hammy Tammy Salami, and Bobblehead? You wouldn't like that, would you? Well, I don't like to be called crazy, only because I asked you to do your job of enforcing an ordinance. So why don't you clean up all of your acts and start doing what the residents ask? I have more stuff for next month, and I'll bring it up there. But you don't like to be called names, neither do I. So if you want to be called Slicky Dicky Tricky Ricky and you Hammy Tammy Salami, fine, I'll do it. I sent you a lot of emails. You want to turn around and bring them all? You can, because I'll bring my 200 emails asking you to do your job and enforce the ordinances. Just to let you know, he's moved his operation over on SA Lane, and next month I'll see if I have some pictures and see if Sean Bell will start doing his job, because he's moved his operation from in front of me, excuse me, to SA Lane. So I'm just gonna see how long it's gonna take, because I have 20 years of documents from this township on how long it took, and nothing has gotten done yet. I'll see you next month for more of Hamill's horrendous happenings.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Comedy Channel continues.
Hi, Gary Cornelia, 3248 Lakeview Drive, Highland, Michigan. I've lived in Highland for 54 years, and I just want to say we have one of the best townships in the state. Our officials have taught my children. They have sat next to my children in church. They have lived in this community for very many years. They have our community at heart. We don't always agree with what they say, but these people work hard on the clock and after the clock for our benefit. If we have an issue with them, I know that they are open during business hours and even after business hours to take our complaints and our thoughts. I'm sorry all the residents don't always agree with these officials, and these officials don't always agree with themselves. But I know that they have our community at our heart, and they work hard for that, and I'd like to commend them for that. Thank you very much. Proud to live in Highland Township.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I should have said this before under announcements, if I can add this.
Yes, you
that
may.
last week I was able to visit the traveling Vietnam Memorial Wall. It was in Livonia, and they did a beautiful presentation there, and then it was there for 5 days for people to view. And next Thursday, Labor Day weekend, Thursday before that, it's going to be in Hamburg. So if anybody that can't get to Washington D.C. to see it, to see the one that's half the size in Hamburg, it's pretty awesome.
Thank you. Any other public comment? All right, we'll move on to item. I got a question on my lettering in here.
9B.
What is it?
9B.
Okay, 9B, resolution number 19-25 to tentatively determine the intent to inform a Lower Pettibone Lake Special Assessment District. So I guess I'll keep this rolling here. I'll like to make the motion to approve resolution number 19-25 to tentatively determine the intent to form the 2019 Lower Pettibone Lake Assessment District for the control of weeds in Peninsula Lake. Peninsula Lake.
Lower Pettibone.
Lower Pettibone, we got, I don't know
Got
how
an
we
early
get these
version.
things.
Can we discuss that?
What's that?
Can we discuss that?
There'll be a public comment, not at this point on this, but at the next component of it. This is just
There's a public hearing next
there's a
week.
public hearing at our next board meeting, September 11th. So we're not making a decision to go ahead, we're making a decision to move the process forward.
Can I just ask for a clarification when it says related services? What are related services? We understand the weed control, but what are related services?
So it'd be like any legal actions that went along with it. It's anything to do with water quality. It's kind of a broad overview. It can be things like buoys. I mean, it's what your association decides they want to do.
Denise Blair, 1851 Highland Drive. When you say lake association, there is no association for the whole lake. So I just here to find out what this is about, you know, and what it's regards to, not to agree or disagree,
Right.
but just an understanding of what it is.
Okay, what happens here is there's a, let me pull this up. Unfortunately, I don't have the map up on the screen, but maybe I can do this. It's kind of an odd way to look at this, but what happens is you take the total number of parcels, and the parcels have a voting capacity based on the amount of acreage. So it's not based on the number of parcels. So what happens is Lower Pettibone Lake, this is a special assessment district, so it's not an association. It's a special assessment district, which means that it will go on the tax rolls of those people in the district once it's approved. So Lower Pettibone Lake Weed Control SAD, there's 65 parcels. 38 parcels said yes to this, and they have 59% of the total of 72.9 acres. So 44.48 acres said yes. So it was
How did they get that?
61%.
How did they get that? When was
It's
this
based on the
voted?
volume of the lot.
Yeah, but how did you come up with that percent? We were never asked or
You weren't
voted
asked.
or on this or anything else.
It's not a voting, it's actually based on, this is, I don't set this up. Gary, do
So
you have a?
It's the petitions.
Sometimes some people go door to door. Do you happen to know in this case?
I don't have a file with it.
Is it,
And you know what, we'll have the file next time so that we can, or else you can come in and look at it.
haven't we been paying taxes?
Yes,
So is this just,
this is a renewal.
so is that voting that you're talking about from the original? Or is this
No.
a new vote?
They had to submit new petitions.
Okay, so we just were unaware of the new.
Yeah, there was a
But we're
5-year,
already
it was a
paying
5-year
taxes,
I
program.
believe it was 5
This
years.
is just kind of an extension of what's already been going on.
Yeah, so they had a 5-year one before,
Right,
it expired.
Oh,
Then this is, now you just don't automatically keep renewing it.
Right,
You
so
have to
you're
go
not-
back and say, maybe there was less than 51% that wanted it, so then it wouldn't approve.
so this is not really, it's more of an extension than a new.
Yeah, it's
approval.
not an additional tax above what you were
It's just
paying.
continuing what we've
Right.
already done. Thank you
Right.
very much.
Okay.
But you didn't have,
Payment. Let me see this.
Go ahead.
is there a time limit on this one?
Just a minute, I've got it.
A time limit
Is
on,
this for another 5 years or for how long? This
yeah,
was
it would
supposed-
probably be for another 5-year
This was
period.
supposed to be a 3-year program. And my other question is the state land going to be sprayed?
No.
Well, this is a no-win situation then.
Well, that's, everybody has their opinion on that one.
Well, if you only spray half the lake, you're not gonna wipe out all the weeds.
Well, I don't know that, I'm not gonna get involved in that conversation. That's not our choice. What the choice is the homeowners that have agreed to go forward with this. So it's kind of one of those, if you wanna call it democratic, I don't know how democratic it
Petition was
is.
circulated?
A petition was circulated, and you're welcome to come and look at those
Huh.
petitions.
Well, we never saw it, so.
Okay.
Do you have lake frontage?
No, association lot.
Okay, then the president of the association should have gotten a notification of that. And your lot would have been included in that assessment, that a portion
Right,
of
because it was
the
included in the original.
calculations. So it's not based on the lot sizes that you guys have, it's the lot size of the association lot.
Correct.
Okay.
There's another question.
So how will this be finalized?
Well,
There's a public hearing in September.
There's
and
a
then
public hearing?
There's a public hearing at the September board meeting.
September board, okay.
that's
And in
September
Oc-
11th.
In October, there's another public hearing. You have 2 chances to speak your piece. And then it would be voted on to approve it or not at the October meeting. That's the way the schedule's flowing.
Give me those dates again, September 11th?
September 11th and is it October 10th?
Would we do it at the October board meeting or the budget workshop in September?
That first one, so October
Okay.
10th, is it?
This is
Yeah.
the second Wednesday in October. And they get notices for every single one, right?
I
Second
think-
Wednesday, was that?
It's
Second
the
Wednesday?
It's the
second
second
Wednesday
Wednesday.
of October.
You should get a notice in the mail about it.
Yeah,
Oh, we should?
You should.
yeah.
Mr. Hamel?
Yes.
So at your September meeting, the board will make a decision, and that is whether to create the district. And if they do, they would direct preparation of a special assessment roll. The October public hearing would be for the board to review and act on the special assessment roll. So
Okay,
at each of those, decisions are made by the board.
okay.
Okay.
Why does a district need established when we've already been paying this for the last 5 years? What's
Because it
changed?
expires.
What?
It expires. And we can't just go ahead and put it back on the roll. So what it does is it actually allows for change in ownership and attitude, and maybe it does a program that didn't show a net positive effect to those that felt it should have a positive effect. And it gives an opportunity for it to readdress it. And you may find that nobody wants to have that special assessment. And then it doesn't go on. So you don't want something that just keeps autopilot reoccurring. You know, you want to make sure that was it 5 years and successful, or 5 years and not successful, and so we don't want to do it again. But apparently enough of the people that responded to this, the way they calculate this thing, that said that they felt it was successful.
Is
At
that
least
very
in front of
difficult
theirs.
to renew them every 5 years?
Yeah,
Pretty much.
that gives you a longer time frame, you know, to make sure that it's working. I mean, they could agree to 3 years,
This
but then you
won't
have to go through the process again
be-
every
It's
3
not
years.
something that's gonna be just permanent
No.
forever.
No,
So each time this happens, shouldn't we get something in the mail, which we never did get? And we read it, or someone told us about it, and then we read it in the paper,
In the
looked in the spinal column.
spinal column, yeah.
well, like I said, I don't know, I can't say for sure that whoever receives the information for the outlot or gets that information should have been, your association president should have gotten that information. And so the assessment's only on your lot, it's not on all of your parcels and stuff, so. It doesn't move up into the subdivision beyond just the assessment on that lot, which is not, I can't tell you what the cost is, I don't have that
The
information, so.
proposed, we have all of that. We have the proposals and everything, but if you want, I'll take your phone numbers and we'll have somebody call you tomorrow and they'll be happy to answer your questions. Does that work?
We just had questions before you go approving all this, you know?
Right,
We
exactly.
can discuss it next
Okay,
time.
fine,
We can come up and talk to you
And
up there.
you're
Yes, that's
absolutely
what we'll
welcome to do that.
Yep,
Yeah, rather do that than over the phone.
yeah,
Okay,
it's easier.
well, I appreciate you coming in, because I
absolutely.
I live on a lake, and Harvey Lake, and I don't like to have the chemicals put in the lake. And I vote against, it's not an association or an SAD, it's volunteer on that lake. And I oppose it every year and tell them, please don't spread it in front of my place. And they appear not to spread it, but I noticed I had a notice stuck on one of my trees already that it's been put in the water. So if you don't, it's one of those things, if you don't stand up you have no voice.
That's
So
why
I appreciate your coming in,
Well,
and
we'll be,
sometimes you have a voice, but the voice isn't powerful enough to be.
yeah, we'll talk to our association president too and find out what he knows about it.
Yep.
Does anybody check on, like, the company that's doing it? Because they don't spray the shore, they don't go up along and spray the shore. And I've been down there when they've been spraying, and half the time they skip if you have a boat there, they just totally skip your little area. Does anybody ever check on that?
Yeah,
Or
there's
you,
no-
or who would you talk to about that? Is it the board
Well,
up here, or is it somebody else?
distributes in the water, so it's kind of and then settles down to the bottom, and they can't really, spray under your boat because it's,
But they're still in between, and
yeah, it
And
migrates with the water flow and that type of thing, so. But there's very few people that do this, so I don't know who the company is.
yeah, because like there's still flooding
We have that
along the
information.
shoreline where they don't spray.
Okay, it's Aquaweed, and they service most of the other lakes in Highland.
Right.
Because I have the contract sitting here in front of me, and they have a good reputation.
Well, we can bring pictures of the
Okay,
flooding rush
and if
after
there's-
5 years.
Other people that do this, they'll walk around with them and show him what needs to be. He'll bring in maps and say, this is where we're gonna,
So all we would
Tree-
have to do is call the company and say that we're not happy with this area.
I would think,
Talk to the
I would think a
company directly.
representative from your homeowners association would do that, so he's dealing with one person instead of 60 homeowners. But, I mean, it's a valid concern if he's missing your house. If I'm paying for it, I wanna make sure they're gonna do what they've said that they would do.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks. So I made the motion.
Did somebody second it?
I don't know if somebody seconded or not.
Support.
Okay, moved and supported. Vote, please.
Mrs. Cooper?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Motion carries.
And all that does is keeps it on the agenda,
It just,
right?
it keeps the process moving
Move
forward.
forward.
Yeah.
All right, the next item is Resolution 19-23 to establish mill rates for 2020. A motion on that, please?
I would move to approve resolution 19-23 to establish the millage rates for the 2020 budget.
Support.
Moved and supported.
have these changed at all from last year, this year?
They went down because of the Headley. Other than that, no.
Okay.
We've kept general at 0.6.
All right, vote, please.
I vote yes.
Yes?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, we are on D, hiring, okay. At the last board meeting, we did something a little different. We requested, because we didn't have time to get the interviews in before the board meeting, we requested to be able to hire a person to fill a vacancy by our building administrator, Carrie Little Bear, who's moving on. She's gonna be moving to Texas. Carrie's here in the audience, and thank you very much for all your service. It's been phenomenal.
Thank you.
And I've had a number of builders and people that have come in, a lot of them, to say, "Oh, she's leaving. Why?" Because they really like how you've treated them and how you've handled the department. So that's a very good statement when you get the public that used to be afraid to come in to make the statements that are like that. So they really appreciate how you handle them and how you've dealt with it, and we do too, so thank you. So in that process, we did have quite a few applications, and we had two, I'd call them finalists, and we did hire one, Jennifer Marciniak, to fill that position, and she's to begin August 12th, which
It's Monday.
she's already started. And how's she doing?
She's doing really well. She's picking up stuff really pretty quick. She takes good notes, so that's always good.
So and she's a very extremely pleasant person. I think won't be able to fit your shoes. She'll have to bring her own in and
She's
start
a
her
lot
own.
smaller,
So. So anyways, in that process, we also interviewed Sophia Gravlin. And Sophia it was one of these things where the two had such good qualifications. And Sophia had some that I think that were kind of outstanding. I think could be used in a different aspect, and aren't really needed in the building department, but certainly would be helpful to the group as a whole. And she has some very good skills in Adobe Illustrator, InDesign, and Photoshop. And all three of those are elements that we use for graphics and stuff. All of our logos are done in InDesign, and most of us have no clue how to handle this software. I think I'm probably one of Sammy. Thank you, Dennis. Tammy has some pretty good skills, and maybe not specifically in those, but has good understanding. So we've had an open position left by Brandon Skopek, and I can't speak highly enough about Brandon. He has moved on to, he went to Brighton and did some really great things in Brighton and got really great response there, and ended up being hired by Auburn Hills. I believe it's Auburn Hills, and they are just ecstatic about him. And I think this is another one of those opportunities where we have somebody that I think can maybe not fit Brandon's shoes either, but somebody that'll fit that position, because Brandon had a lot of these same capabilities. Anything you throw at him, he could handle it. And I think this Sophia would be a good one to fit in his position. Gives a little precursor to, we don't know when retirements will occur in our planning department, but we know that we have some that have been there for a long time and have hinted of retirement but haven't stated a date. So this is a good opportunity to fill that position back up and get somebody trained to be able to step into some new shoes. So I'd like to make a motion to hire Sophia Gravlin to fill the clerk position in the planning department that's been vacant for several years at $17.50 an hour for full-time beginning August 29th, 2019.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, moved and supported. Vote please.
Let's see where we're at. Mr. Salvia?
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Once again, Carrie, thank you very much.
It has been.
You didn't disappoint me in the least the first time I met you to hire you, and you're going to move on to some pretty exciting stuff. So good luck, and if you need anything, just call us.
Okay.
You have support all the way from Highland. So she's moving to Texas?
Yep, Austin, Texas.
Austin, Texas.
I know.
You're not going to end up a music star, are you?
No. No.
All right, well,
But
thanks
I will go
again.
enjoy the music.
Well, thank you again for your service, and very, very, very proud of you. So, good luck on your ventures. Okay, the next item, which is part of the same process, is we hired Jennifer, or Jen Bosch. We now have 4 Jennifers in our building. So all you have to do is yell Jenny and you're going to get somebody. So very interesting. But in any event, in the process, it became apparent that the pay rate for Jennifer Bosch, who is assuming Carrie's position, and Carrie's been training her for quite a while, we needed to review her pay rate. So her current rate is $16.21 per hour, which is more in line with our pay scale for part-time employees. And currently the scale for full-time employees begins at $17.50. So, which is the rate that we've offered to Jennifer Marciniak to be the assistant to Jennifer. So it's not really right to bring somebody in at a higher level than she's being paid. So to recognize the experience that Mrs. Bosch has had, and that she will be assuming more responsible within the department. I'd like to make the motion to raise her hourly rate to $18.50 an hour.
Support.
Okay, moved and supported.
And this would begin August 19th?
August 19th, yeah.
All right, ready to vote?
Vote, please.
Doesn't that also include the budget amendment, or are you doing this?
Oh, yeah, and to approve the budget amendment as provided. I'm sorry, that's part of the motion. Thank you, Ray.
Okay. Mrs. McDonald?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Well, I know that you're gonna do well. If I don't, I'm calling you. Leave your number so they can call you too. So.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Okay, the next item is, I'd like to make a motion to approve the budget amendment to cover the final engineering costs for Safe Routes to School sidewalk project.
Support.
Okay, moved and supported. And now instead of, I'll ask, I can say discussion, but I'll kind of define what occurred.
Yeah.
And I can't say I'm 100% happy with the process, but what transpired was we had a number of people, the Safe Routes schools, we put in sidewalks, and we had a program that we had agreed to $150,000 for engineering fees as a part of the whole project, which is nearly $700,000. And it included sidewalks and modifications in front of the high school, in front of Spring Mill School, and in the downtown part of Highland. And in the process, engineers do stuff on paper and in their office, and they should be out there measuring stuff, but sometimes these little things pop up that turn out to be not so little. And neighbors find out that they don't own the land that they thought they owned, and you run into some scenarios where the smoke was pretty thick in terms of people that were perturbed about some of the things that happened. So as a result, I was hoping I didn't have to become involved, but I did have to get involved, and I had to go with the neighbors, and we had to make adjustments. So there's some engineering adjustments that occurred in order to, we actually reduced the cost overall. If we'd have gone forward with what was originally planned, there would have been an even bigger expense, which would have been probably involved a lawsuit even, but we eliminated a sidewalk and removing a screen that's been in there for 50, 60 years of arborvitae that I think would have raised a real stink and been a real engineering nightmare to get just to have the sidewalk in. So we modified that, but then ended up having to increase some costs with some drains that were discovered that weren't obvious when they built it, and we had to put in some new piping to get the water to flow away. And so consequently there was an overrun, and which I did barter on, and they did reduce their request some, but it's still...
This is a 43% increase.
It's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
Absolutely ridiculous. And so I think my lesson learned here is that I think that we need to look at our engineering contracts and probably put stipulations that if you're going to request $150,000 for a project like that, then I think the overruns were just, they shouldn't have been there. So I can't really make too many more statements.
Did they advise you of those overruns as they were occurring?
They were occurring on the spot. In other words, how do you move the project forward? Because the concrete guys are trying to pour concrete, and it's like, we had one lady who threatened to bring her shotgun out if they stepped foot on the property, so I had to settle that down. And I mean, Lieutenant was involved in a couple of fiascos over there.
Is the work performed justified?
Yeah, I think that the end result is that, I'll give you an example. Right on John Street, I said people don't know how much land they own. If we'd have put the sidewalk in, it would have been less than 6 feet in front of one individual's front window. And they would have removed a beautiful tulip poplar that didn't really need to be removed, and which we were able to save by changing the shape of the sidewalk and bringing it farther into the right-of-way and removing a ditch that they would have had to have in their front yard, this big ditch. So it was really it would have held up the project and probably caused a lot of nightmares. But it was stuff like that that shouldn't have transpired. And I think it's a lot of times most people don't have any skill sets to oversee what the engineers are doing. And I would have to say that I was fortunate to understand the engineering. I wanted to leave it alone and let it go its way, but I got drug into it every time because there were things that were drawn up that we had a legal right to do them. But do you trounce on things when you could have designed differently within the right-of-way to make it work better? Spring Mill Schools was another example. There would have been a huge ditch. Sidewalk would have been shoved in on people's property, and there would have been a bunch of trees taken out, and all they had to do was redesign and put a pipe underground. Well, if they'd have done that in the beginning, then those costs would have been known, and there wouldn't have been an issue with holdup or expenditures. We'd have known exactly what the costs were. So their engineering fees would have been correct based on that's what they do the first time. So by having to do these corrections, they go back and they assess the new fees for the new time for redrawing the drawings.
Was there any opportunity to review the original plans to see that those modifications might have been done before they got done?
Not at this point. We have to work through the MDOT and everybody else, and this was quite a quite a deal.
You mentioned, you said we saved money on the overall project, so what was the offset between what we spent X more in engineering approximately?
It wasn't our money, though.
No.
That we saved. Still cost us.
Right, so we didn't.
It cost us
direct benefit
60 some odd thousand, yeah.
Cost reduction.
I think the original estimate was 150, and the engineering fees came out at 214,950. So we have the differential to pay there, and if you stop and think about, if we tried to put those sidewalks in, it would have been $750,000. So we got a lot of sidewalk for local tax dollars of $60,000. So, but still, it's we need to be looking at these things in a different way going forward.
Heads up.
Yeah. I am disappointed, but and it took up until now to get this solved. And this has been done since last year. So.
Who got the reduction overall then? Who benefited from that reduction?
What's that?
Who benefited from the reduction? You said that the cost of the project went down.
There's probably
Wherever the grant comes from. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. You
Who benefit?
Yeah.
It's a federal grant?
It's a federal grant.
So the federal grant spent less money.
Well,
Less money.
they didn't have to pay the additional engineering costs. You know, there was those costs didn't exceed it. So.
They're not interested in helping with that.
No.
Okay. Just where I'm going with the question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there other avenues? No.
All right.
We looked into all that stuff, and that's why I said it's taken this long, because I pushed off on this as far as I can get with it.
So Rick, when they were doing this project and each one of these things come up, were they keeping you assessed then about that this is running over or something? Kind of
No,
letting
what
us
they
know
do is
along
they
the way?
come to my door and they'd say, this lady wants to pull a shotgun on us, and what can you do? And there's another thing that happened out of this that I realized, and I don't mind that. I'd like input from the rest of you. If you hire an engineering firm and they're going to do all this work for you, and they're going to charge $150,000, wouldn't you think that they would take the initiative to go to every house and talk to every homeowner and explain to them what they were going to do? Nope. They had a meeting of which 2 people showed up at 5 o'clock in the afternoon on one day and said, here's what's going to happen. And that was pretty much it, and letters were sent out. So a lot of these people didn't really have a full impact of what was going to happen in their front yard. And I think that moving forward, if you're going to do projects like this, we need to have an understanding that somebody is going to be responsible for that. And,
Hindsight.
yeah, the unfortunate hindsight, but maybe it's good for the future.
Requirement then.
That
Yeah,
would be a requirement.
future.
You identify every single homeowner what you're gonna be doing in front of their house, potentially. And then you have your meeting where you've let everybody know what's going on. And some of the stuff, one interesting one was a homeowner that is an engineer. He's an automotive engineer, but still he questioned every bit of the sidewalk, the way it was done in front of his house or designed. And he came up and he said, why are we doing it this way? Why don't you do it this way? Well, the engineer said, well, we could do it this way, but this is what we came up with. And it turned out that what he had proposed actually was more efficient and worked better. So
So we really need to look at what we're doing in engineering.
yeah, and it's, like I said, it's hard to, because who knows? You look at these drawings, and I'm telling you, if you can sit down and understand the engineering drawings in these projects, then you probably have a degree in architecture or engineering. Because otherwise, you really have to look at this stuff to understand, what does that mean to my house?
Don't the sidewalks go in the road right away?
Yeah.
Now, why, if somebody's got a swing set and bridge and flagpole in the right of way, why are we negotiating with them to move it? I mean, shouldn't they just have to move it if they're not on their property anyway? So why, it bothers me that we pay 50 hours a time.
Because they could have stopped the project
How?
by refusing to let them on their property.
It's not their property if it's the road right away.
I'm just telling you, that's what happened. And the truth is that if they'd have paid attention in the engineering to those elements and then communicated with each homeowner and said, hey, we'd like you to know that these elements in your yard are going to disappear, then they could have looked at the engineering and said, well, we can change that. And the change that was made actually was a major improvement on it. So it's one of those things where, what's the best route to take? It would have been better to have that figured out in advance, but, so. Anyways, any other discussion on it? Want to vote, please?
Mrs. Chenoweth?
Yes.
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 No.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, I'm losing my voice. Judy, would you pick up in this next one for the...
Blacking up. Do you have a backup? I can do that. So the next thing is the proposal from Plant Moran for their government accounting group to help us through some of the newer things for the audit preparation. Because of GASB 84, the auditors can't give us the guidance that they have in the past. They have to objectively look at our records and not have any input on how we do our journal entries or anything at all. So they have this group that is completely separate.
Really?
Yes, really. They have this group that's completely separate from our auditors that can come in and give us the assistance that we need to prepare the journal entries at the end of the year so that we're not written up for having them help us with our journal entries. GASB 84 compliance. We've assumed ownership of the water fund that was originally Oakland County's ownership, so we have to put that on our books this year, so we need help creating that fund. Also transition of the transportation fund to WODA and transition to the new chart of accounts numbering system required by the state. Last year, Amy and Karen put in hours and hours and hours and were frustrated to the max because in the past, Mary, you know, I mean, the auditors helped us. They held our hands through it. Anything that was new, they would just walk us through that, and they claim they cannot do that anymore. I know. So that's what this is all about. We plan on meeting with them to see exactly what we need, and hopefully we can do that within $10,000.
So what happens is,
That
if they,
in this year's budget,
Yes.
it's 10,000? Yeah.
so what happens is, it's kind of a weird statement. If they help us, then they have to claim it as a material misstatement. Or isn't that what it is, a material misstatement?
Yeah.
Which sounds really severe and actually can have some negative effect on things if you have a lot of them. But it's really a strange thing that they basically tell you, well, if you just click like that, then that's called a material misstatement. So it,
In the past, we had like probably 100 journal entries. Karen and Amy have whittled that down to like 10. I mean, they've done a fabulous job diving in and figuring out how to do this. And some of this stuff is just, they're not trained to do that. And the auditors cannot help us, and they have to write us up for it. So, yeah.
it's not because they don't have the skills to make it work. It's
They're
just,
not accountants.
Exactly.
That's what I mean by not the skill. I mean, they're not accountants.
Yep.
We don't pay them to be accountants. So I would move to approve the engagement letter for Plant Moran Governmental Accounting Group with a maximum budget amendment of.
There's no
Is
budget
there a
amendment.
budget amendment? No.
We already have an established line item for professional services that this
Okay.
would fall under, and we have plenty of room left in that budget line
Okay.
to cover this.
So this would
Just
fall
need-
under that.
Motion for approval, to approve.
Move to approve for the supervisor to sign the attached engagement letter to secure the services of PM Gap.
I'll second it.
Moved and supported. Vote, please.
Should we have the $10,000 in there somewhere?
No,
Okay. Because it's in there.
right.
Okay.
Mrs. Cooper?
Yes.
I vote yes.
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 Yes?
Motion carries.
Going back to the engineering piece, I don't think we did the budget amendment on that, but it's on the agenda.
Pardon me?
Yeah, we did. We included the budget amendment.
Yeah, he added that to it.
I didn't, no, that was the one before that.
No?
I didn't hear you say it, but.
The
can check
whole
the
motion
added
was
it.
to approve the budget amendment.
Yes.
That was the only thing we were approving in
Oh,
that
it
line.
was, oh, I thought you
Yeah.
were approving the payment.
Okay. Okay.
I think your opinion still stands though on, in your vote, right, Mary?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, you want to do this one? You mind?
Sure. So the Activity Center Council is trying to be creative and come up with new things all the time. And one of the events that they want to go forward and have on a regular basis is a wine tasting event. They want to have a wine club that meets semi-regularly. And in order to do that, we need to obtain a special liquor license, which requires a resolution being passed by our board. And I do have to change the date from what's in the memo. The memo says October 8th, and between last Thursday and today, it's now changed to November 8th.
November 8th?
Yes.
Okay.
I would move to approve resolution 19-24 for a special license application for wine tasting.
Support.
Okay, moved and supported?
I vote yes.
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 Motion carries.
All right. Okay, this next item is a net zero. It's a budget amendment.
This is just a transfer, a little bit of money from one line to the other within the transportation fund.
I'll move to approve the budget amendment for the transportation fund.
Support.
Moved and supported. Vote, please.
Mr. Salvia?
Yes.
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 Motion carries.
And the next item is assessing budget amendment.
So this one is to reflect the change in timing of payments from what we were with when we were having Oakland County assessing, we paid them once a year. Then we paid them at the end of the year. And our year went from July 1st to July 30th. So last month, we made a payment to Oakland County for the entire previous year's worth of service. And that was what we had budgeted for. Now with WCA, we're gonna be paying them monthly. So we need to add to the budget to cover the monthly payments from now through the end of this year for the rest of this budget year. And then starting next year, the budget will just be the same regular annual amount.
I would move to approve the assessing budget amendment as presented.
Support.
Moved and supported. Vote, please.
Mrs. McDonald?
Yes.
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 Motion carries.
So, the next item is possible closed session. Gary, are we good for this? We got what we need?
Yes, you don't need a letter from me. You can just,
I'm half deaf tonight too. I not only cold, I can't hear, so.
yeah, just a motion to meet in closed session to consider acquisition of property as appropriate and to include the fire chief in that closed session.
Okay, do you hear that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because I couldn't hear him.
So moved.
All right.
Support.
And Judy.
Okay, moved and supported.
Mrs. Chenoweth?
Yes.
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 Motion carries.
All right, this will be something that we won't have any comment on when we come back out, so you don't have to sit and wait for it. Could be hours, hopefully not, to hear nothing. So would you?
Oh, can I ask, just, on H, just so I understand how our township government goes, were you talking about the government comes in and audits your financial?
Yes.
Just like,
Clint Miranda.
we're in a hospital, we have OSHA come in and check everything, so you had to change companies that are but I'm just,
So we
so
have,
the township has an audit every year of your
Yes.
finances?
Plant Moran is a public accounting firm and they audit our books every year.
Right.
And then we turn in the results of the audit to the state.
Yeah, so there's somebody, a government agency that audits
They're
the
not government.
finances that go on within our
They're a
district.
private entity that's auditing the government
But the,
actions.
so Plant Moran is a public accounting firm. It's not the government, it's
Right.
just their CPAs and they audit our books and then they turn in the results of their audit to the state of Michigan. And the state of Michigan will take a look at it and make sure that we've filed everything that we need to
Because the
file.
state of Michigan,
Is our oversight.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, I'm saying
Right.
audit, but they look over your budget to make
Yeah,
sure
most
everything's
hospitals,
in line.
corporate entities, they all have audits because they're engaged in things that are related to the public and financial stuff, so you have to have somebody that's oversight. So it's kind of
So you,
overseers, so that's what that
okay,
is.
so it's a learning experience.
Okay, so did we do that process yet?
Yes.
We did, and we voted, and
We're going into.
we're gonna go into closed session, so. Okay, we're back in session. Tammy, you wanna read the motion?
I move to authorize payment of up to $1,000 to update the appraisal of the property for Station 1.
Support.
Moved and supported. Vote, please.
Mrs. Cooper?
Yes.
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 No.
Yes.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Meeting adjourned.